sweetest place on earth. There's an RMC now here at Hersheypark. Unbelievable. I did get to ride this on the media preview day, and it wasn't really enough to do like a whole review. I don't think anyway. You need a few runs, right? Especially when you consider like what the big roller coasters here are, especially with the lineup as a whole at Hersheypark. My top three personally has been Sky Rush, Storm Runner, and Candemonium. But now with Wildcat's Revenge, not only is there a second truss lift hill, there is now like almost no weak links here at the park. Now if you're just finding me randomly on the YouTube search or whatever, my name's Andres. I run Thrills and Magic. I cover theme parks, entertainment, and most of all roller coasters, moonlight as a photographer, and I once tried to buy Boatcraft, but the developers won. Up until this moment, I only came here on Memorial Day to ride it once during the previews. I did not go to the media event because I have a regular 9 to 5, so I've dedicated now this day, all day and night, to ride nothing but Wildcat's Revenge. I thought going into it that it was going to be a middle of the pack RMC. Now for context, I've only ridden 5 RMCs other than this one. We don't need to compare it to the single rail Jersey Devil coaster, which is over at Great Adventure, but I have been on Steel Vengeance, Twisted Timbers, Wicked Cyclone, and Storm Chaser. All right, it's time to jump in the queue here and get some more rides on Wildcat's Revenge. So as you can see, the queue hasn't changed much since the original Wildcat. They pretty much kept all of this. And this, what you're looking at, is about an hour wait. One thing I did forget to mention is that there are lockers. You're not allowed to take anything up to the station, which is common nowadays for most RMCs, but these are lockers that are one side when you're entering and one side when you're exiting. While I'm here at the exit, I'm taking a closer look at the lift hill. That truss lift hill, man, that mixture of like the black with the wood is so cool. And I know that they had to extend that, lift it up just a little bit from what it was as Wildcat. Well, here it's about to go. This ending as it comes into the station really threw me for a loop. I didn't expect it to like almost overturn and just slap you to the side. Yeah, it was abrupt. They accommodate 3 trains. The ops are pretty great, and one new thing for the stations is that they'll be using one area here to unload and take that up for everybody to load in. So now that they've separated that, that's increased the capacity, and there's no mid-course brake run or anything like that. So basically this is it. So they are waiting now to unload, and the catch for the lift hill isn't going to be able to start there until this guy is in motion and on its way here to unload. The ops in general have been kicking butt. I mean, I don't think the wait time at all, with the sheer amount of people that have been here today, has gotten over an hour. And with that scheme of with the new station where they can do unloading separate from the loading and then have one on the brake run, there was no need for a mid-course brake one, which, you know, for the layout is a big plus. But also they're able to get more guest throughput. Now, speaking of the layout, it's amazing to me what they were able to do with such a small footprint. You figure that there's parking lots all surrounding it. It's kind of locked in. There's not really anywhere to expand. They could have expanded into the parking lots, I guess, but really they stayed confined to the layout of the former Wildcat, and what they were able to do with it is just such an accomplishment. Now, in order to accommodate the new height for the first drop, for the lift hill and all of that, they had to extend out, right? And that also meant there's this nice little pre-lift hill thing where you just kind of go side to side banking, and then you go around and up, then you catch and you go straight up. And the first drop, a lot of people wanted like a full vertical one. I don't know about that. 82 degrees is pretty darn close, and if anything, I feel like you get just enough air to where as you're coming out of it and into the underflip, it's just like the introduction to this whole thing that you're about to experience. It's just so great to me. And like, it's not even like the standout thing. There's a lot of coasters out there where, I mean, even at this park, Sky Rush, where the first drop is the most notable thing, and from there it's like you're still just enjoying that high of the first drop. Here it is not the case at all. Here the first drop is just like the little intro, the little hook to the rest of this entire song that this layout is. Then we go into the step up underflip, which is the marketing one, the world's largest or tallest, whatever it was, is a lot of fun to do that into the second drop that banks. It flows so well, and I think I've already mentioned the pacing. This whole coaster just flows so well, and that element right there just gets it started. Because, you know, after the first drop, what happens next? Here, it's a bit of a surprise. Normally, what do we get? Like an Airtime Hill sometimes, or in other cases, we might get like an inversion, but here we get something that's a little combination of the two. Now, I know that's an element that's been on other RMCs, I just haven't personally experienced them. So you can look up like Untamed, Twisted, Cyclone, or Joker if you want to see something in that similar vein. And just when you've survived going through the underflip and going through the banked drop, you go into this Airtime Hill with so much speed. And I think a lot of people notice this, because you get out of your seat and you stay there. You're just floating for a while, almost like the inverse of the stall that comes later. Like, you're just up for a while, and it's phenomenal. Like, if there's not a lot of air in this whole thing, but if there was gonna be any, like, at least it's a standout moment like that. Then right after that, it's a little pop of air, and you're going into, I believe, the first wave turn. There is something about being ejected while experiencing laterals that is still new to me and still so much fun. The fact that this roller coaster does it twice is just phenomenal. I didn't even really realize that they could do that, you know? It's just one of those things, like, such a feat of engineering to me, that as you're turning, it has that little wave in it, and then it goes, and you're just like, boop, while you're on your side, basically. And then from there, you go into the stall, which feels like the mirror of the Airtime Hill. You've got a lot of speed still coming out of the wave turn. And then you hang. It's like time slows down just a little bit, and this is pretty much, in my opinion, kind of like your break during this whole thing. It kind of feels like the halfway point, right? And, you know, just marvel in hanging upside down. I've never seen a stall quite as prolonged as this one. 0G stall happens. Hooray for weightlessness. It's amazing. And then we go into another wave turn, and we're starting to prep for this double down that, caught me off guard. It steps up right coming out of the turn, and then it tries to start turning left on the first little down, and then on the second one you actually do turn, and it's this weird like whoop, and then it happens. So I'm realizing that during this whole thing, they know what you kind of expect as an enthusiast, as somebody who rides these coasters all the time. So their little twists start to throw in some laterals here and there to kind of keep you on your toes and make the experience unique. At least that's my guess as to what the approach was here. So after that, we go into our first 0G roll. I think this one is the clockwise one. Either way, right after that, you go into this really cool overbank turn. It's so overbanked, it's almost got you in an inversion, but just not quite. And then you go into the next 0G roll, which I think goes the other way. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, if you can tell by now, like, this roller coaster has not let up at all. Like, you have not had a chance to fully recover from any one element before the next one is coming right up. Like, at most, you have that low to the ground overbank turn to prep you for the next 0G roll. So, like, between the 0G rolls. And they just happen so quick, though. I can't guess what speed you're going, but the max speed is 62 miles per hour, which to me indicates you're going at a pretty good clip throughout the length of this course. But then after the 0G roll, it goes into another bank turn as you start going into the brake run. And what an entrance into the brake run you make. I think I've already pointed that out, but it still bears repeating. Like, you come out and then you start turning, but then make a quick turn into the brake run, and everybody's just kind of like going side to side to side at that point. And it's kind of marvelous to watch everybody come in and like then fully react to that entire thing that they've just experienced. All right, so all that being said and the experience being described, where does that kind of put it in terms of, one, ranking in the park, ranking with other RMCs and all of that, and just ranking with roller coasters in general? It's tough to compare to, say, Skyrush because it has such a different approach. This, in comparison, feels like the more complete ride, you know? And when I mentioned Skyrush, it's been my number one at this park forever. So, I'm very familiar with it, and it was the first one that I rode after I had open heart surgery. But its strongest thing, I have to admit, is the first drop. And it's known for just like being super aggressive, like you're experiencing a car crash or something. It's one of those roller coasters that I love because it is very intense. Meanwhile, this one, it's hard to compare because this one is more on the fun side of things. It's just trying to put you in the air and give you some good general forces here and there. There is definitely a wider appeal with this one. So as I said before, this is likely to be most people's number one in the park. Maybe Stormrunner, maybe Fahrenheit, maybe Great Bear or Candemonium might push their way to number one for some, but this is such a strong roller coaster, and already this park already has so many good roller coasters. It seems like it's been a really cool strategy that this park has employed to go after kind of the weak links, let's call it, in this park. For instance, they did that Jolly Rancher remix with their boomerang, adding a bunch of elements and kind of doing this makeover to a boomerang. It's probably the nicest, fanciest boomerang that I've ever seen, unless you count the Sea Serpent over at Maurice Piers. Meanwhile, that left Wildcat, which, if anybody was wondering, my opinion on who Wildcat is getting revenge on, it's all those enthusiasts that were poo-pooing it when it was just Wildcat, and it was mid, it was whatever you wanted to call it, janky. There was a lot of name calling, there was a lot of things. It just didn't get that much love, especially when you already had Comet, and they have Lightning Racer, and personally Lightning Racer to me is the superior wooden coaster that was here when there were 3 here. So it felt like Wildcat was the obvious choice to do something big with and improve it. And obviously the easiest thing to do if you're a parks operator or park president, let's RMC it, and here we are. And now, what is the weak link here? I couldn't say, and I don't really want to say, like, is it that mine train? Is it, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Like, where do they go from here? Because this just took this park and raised it to the next level. This is a destination park, to be sure. Except for, like, Steel Vengeance, which I think is even hard to compare to this one, because that one feels like a 2-act symphony in comparison, whereas this one just feels like the most exciting pop song that I've ever heard. Like, it's got a little bit of everything and is a culmination of all the things RMC has learned building hybrids. Steel Vengeance, I still give it to Steel Vengeance as my number one RMC that I've been on. I have not gotten on Iron Gwazi, but the collective opinion is that somebody's number 1 or 2 is going to be some combination of Steel Vengeance and Iron Gwazi typically. Will this be number 1? No, I could see it in a lot of people's top 5s though. And I think now that I've talked this out, I've got enough stamina, or I've recovered a little bit, and now I think I can go on it one more time, maybe 2, make it an even 10. If I count with my my preview ride, then that would be 10 rides total. And I think that's a good place to stop it, because I don't know when I'll be back, hopefully soon. But anyway, if you have ridden Wildcat, let me know down below what your impressions have been about the ride, where it ranks for you in the park, among other RMCs, and among other coasters. A few more thoughts as I was making my way out of the park, and park closed. I managed to get on 2 more times, making a total of 10, so it means I've been on the ride 11 times, so I feel like now I have pretty good thoughts about it. One thing I forgot to mention, and I wish we could see it, but the park closes at 8. There is a $500,000 lighting package on that thing. If you notice, there's like the chasing lights on the lift hill, and there's a whole bunch of go-gos over by the first wave turn. We're never going to get to see those until dark nights, or like towards the end of the summer, or special nights when they close at 10, unfortunately. I really want to see those. Like, there's been a photo or 2 about it, but really, it's a shame that we can't see this like all summer. Now, since I got to ride it a bunch, I got on multiple different rows. Biggest distinguishing feature to me in my experience was the front had some very pronounced ejector, almost to the point when it was totally warmed up and going full speed. It was hauling, and that ejector was starting to wear down on the tops of my thighs. It was actually painful. Then in the back, the sustained air. I mean, it's not, I can't say there was a lot of it, but the ones that were there, the moments of sustained air were incredible. The stuff like in that Airtime Hill, I felt like I was out of my seat way longer than should have been. During the 0G rolls, I felt like I was out of my seat for a very long time in the back. My personal favorite one was second to last row on the left-hand seat. Shout out to Thrill Pride, who I was just talking to, and we actually were in agreement that that was probably the best seat on that whole train. But anyway, guys, I think security is gonna come up behind me and start shuffling me along. So I'm gonna leave it here. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Hi, my name is Austin. I'm making my own adventure. Alright, Wildcat Revenge is the best ride.
The corkscrews are awesome.
Yeah, for real. Subscribe.